This week, Perplexity launched something called Computer, and it's not what you think. This isn't a chatbot. This isn't even a regular AI agent. This is a system that orchestrates 19 different models to work on tasks that can run for hours, days, or even months. Joining me to break this down is Sarah, who helps enterprises deploy AI systems and has been testing Computer since launch. Sarah, welcome.
Thanks, Alex. This has been fascinating to watch.
So let's start with the basics. What is Perplexity Computer, and why should anyone care?
Computer is Perplexity's bet that the future isn't one super intelligent AI model, it's orchestration, using the right model for each specific task and coordinating them to complete entire workflows without you babysitting them.
Give me a concrete example.
You tell Computer, build me a local marketing campaign for my coffee shop in Brooklyn. It doesn't just give you ideas, it researches your competitors, analyzes local demographics, creates the actual content, builds a landing page, generates images, drafts social media posts, and sets up tracking. All of that happens automatically in the background using different specialized models for each piece.
Wait, it actually builds the landing page? Not just the plan for one?
It actually builds it. Code, design, content, deployment. You describe the outcome you want, and it creates the finished thing.
That's different.
Very different. And that's why Perplexity is calling it computer instead of chatbot or agent. They're invoking the original meaning of the word when computer meant a human professional who broke down complex calculations into coordinated steps.
You said it uses 19 different models. Walk me through why that matters.
So here's Perplexity's core thesis. AI models are specializing, not converging. There isn't going to be one model that's best at everything. GPT-5 is great at long context reasoning, Claude Opus is best for coding, Gemini Flash excels at visual tasks, Veo for video generation, Grok for fast, lightweight work.
So instead of using one model for everything,
Computer picks the right model for each subtask, and more importantly, it creates subagents that can work in parallel. So while one agent is researching competitors using Gemini, another is drafting marketing copy with GPT, and a third is generating images with Nano Banana.
all simultaneously?
All simultaneously. And then Computer coordinates the outputs, makes sure they're consistent, integrates them into the final deliverable.
How does it decide which model to use?
Claude Opus 4.6 is the central reasoning engine, the conductor. It breaks down your request, figures out what needs to happen, and routes each piece to the model best suited for it. If it hits a problem, it can spawn additional subagents to solve it. Find API keys, research a technical question, write a helper script, whatever's needed.
So it's less like using a tool and more like managing a team.
That's exactly how Perplexity's CEO describes it. He quoted Steve Jobs, "Musicians play their instruments, I play the orchestra." That's what Computer does. It conducts an orchestra of specialized AI models.
Okay, but we've had AI agents before. What makes Computer actually different from ChatGPT or Claude?
Three big things. First, persistence. ChatGPT responds to your prompt and then forgets. Computer can work on a task for months without you checking in constantly. You give it a project and it runs in the background.
Months?
Months. That's what Perplexity claims. Obviously, the longest tasks we've seen so far are hours or days, not months, but the architecture supports it.
What's the second difference?
Autonomy. When Computer hits a problem, it doesn't come back and ask you what to do. It figures it out, creates a subagent, does more research, writes code to solve it, whatever's needed. It only contacts you when it genuinely needs human input.
That's either incredibly useful or slightly terrifying.
Both, but that's the third difference, containment. Everything runs in an isolated cloud environment. It has access to a browser, a file system, and integrated tools, but it's all sandboxed. You're not giving it access to your laptop's files or your email directly on your machine.
So it's safer than something like OpenClaw, which runs on your actual computer.
That's the argument Perplexity is making. OpenClaw and tools like it give you more power because they can control your actual computer, but that also means more risk. Computer runs entirely in Perplexity's cloud, where they can apply security controls, audit logs, and kill it if something goes wrong.
Trade-off between power and safety.
Exactly. And Perplexity is betting enterprises will choose safety.
All right, if you're listening to this and thinking, wait, I could actually use this, drop a comment. What workflow would you automate with an AI that works for days or weeks? I'm genuinely curious what use cases people come up with. And if you're finding this breakdown valuable, hit subscribe. This is the Read AI, where we cover the stories that are actually reshaping how work gets done. Share this with someone who's trying to understand where AI agents are actually going. All right, Sarah, let's talk about whether this actually works. So we've talked about what computer is supposed to do. Does it actually work?
So, I've been testing it for 3 days, so take this with appropriate skepticism. But yes, surprisingly well for complex workflows. Not perfectly, but better than I expected.
Give me an example of something you tried.
I asked it to research AI regulation proposals across 5 countries, summarize the key differences, identify potential compliance gaps for a hypothetical SaaS company, and create a briefing document with recommendations.
That's a lot.
It's the kind of thing that would normally take me or a team several days. Computer finished in about 4 hours. It researched regulatory texts, pulled together the analysis, drafted the document, created comparison tables, even generated a visual timeline of when different regulations take effect.
Was it accurate?
I spot-checked it pretty carefully because this is the kind of thing you can't afford to get wrong. The regulatory summaries were accurate, the analysis was solid, better than a junior analyst, not quite as nuanced as a senior one. The gaps it identified were real.
What didn't work well?
It's bad at knowing when to stop. I asked it for a briefing document, and it produced 40 pages, way too long. I had to go back and tell it to condense, which defeated some of the autonomy promise.
So it needs guidance on scope.
Yeah, and it can't really judge importance well. It treats everything with equal weight unless you're very specific about priorities. A human would know this regulation is minor, just mention it, versus this is the big one, dig deep. Computer doesn't have that instinct yet.
What about errors?
I caught one factual error. It mixed up which country had passed a specific provision. But one error in 40 pages of complex regulatory analysis is honestly pretty good. That's better than I'd expect from a single model system.
Because it used multiple models?
Presumably, and it fact-checked itself along the way. I could see in the logs where it researched something, wasn't confident, went back and checked a different source, revised its answer.
Wait, you can see the logs?
You can see what it's doing in real time, which subagents it spawned, which models it's using, what tasks are running. It's transparent about its process, which is actually really helpful for trust.
Perplexity is positioning this as an enterprise tool. What's the actual enterprise value proposition?
Control and accountability. When you run AI locally on employee devices like OpenClaw or some of these other agent tools, you have no visibility. You don't know what prompts they're using, what data they're feeding it, what it's doing with that data.
Security nightmare.
Total nightmare. With Computer, everything runs in Perplexity's managed environment. You can set policies, review audit logs, revoke access. If someone leaves the company, their Computer instances die immediately.
That matters for compliance.
Especially in regulated industries, finance, healthcare, legal, anywhere you need to prove you had appropriate controls in place. Computer's architecture makes that possible. OpenClaw doesn't.
What about the multi-model piece from an enterprise perspective?
This is interesting. Perplexity is betting that enterprises won't want to lock into a single model provider. If you standardize on GPT, you're at the mercy of OpenAI for pricing, access, capabilities. If you standardize on Claude, same problem with Anthropic.
So computer is model agnostic as a hedge.
As a strategy, they can swap models in and out as better ones emerge. If tomorrow a Chinese lab releases a model that's 10 times cheaper and just as good for certain tasks, Perplexity can route to it. You don't have to re-architect your entire workflow.
That's actually pretty smart.
It is, and they've apparently signed 4 of the Magnificent 7 tech companies to use their search API, which means they're becoming infrastructure for other AI systems.
Wait, who are the Mag 7 using Perplexity?
They won't say publicly, but in the press briefing, execs said 4 of the Magnificent 7 are using Perplexity's search API at significant scale.
That's a different business than consumer search.
Completely different. They're not competing with Google for consumer eyeballs. They're providing the search layer for other AI systems. That's an infrastructure play.
Let's talk about what could go wrong, because autonomous AI that works for months sounds great until it doesn't.
The most obvious risk is runaway tasks. You ask it to do something, it spawns 50 sub-agents, burns through your credit allowance, and you get a bill you weren't expecting.
Has that happened?
Not to me, but Perplexity's been pretty quiet about cost controls. The credit system is supposed to prevent this, but it's not clear how well it works at scale.
What else?
Data leakage. If you're asking computer to research your competitors or analyze sensitive internal documents, where does that data go? Perplexity says everything is isolated and they don't train on your data, but you're trusting them on that.
And if you're in a regulated industry, trust us isn't good enough.
Right. You need contractual guarantees, audit rights, data residency controls. Perplexity is working on enterprise agreements, but they're not there yet for everyone.
What about the reliability question? If you're running a task for a week and it breaks on day 6, what happens?
That's the big unknown. Computer says computer can recover from failures, but we haven't stress tested it on truly long-running tasks yet. What if an API it's using goes down? What if a model gets updated mid-task and behaves differently?
Do you lose the week of work?
In theory, no. Computer maintains state, so it should be able to pick up where it left off. But in practice, we don't know. Nobody's run it for months yet.
What about hallucinations and errors at scale?
That's the scary one. If computer is making autonomous decisions for days without human oversight, and one of those decisions is based on a hallucination, how far downstream does that error propagate?
You might not catch it until the end.
Exactly. And then you've got a finished deliverable that looks polished and professional, but it's built on a flawed foundation. That's dangerous.
There's been a lot of comparison to OpenClaw. What's the difference, and does it matter?
OpenClaw is an open-source AI agent that runs on your local machine. It can control your mouse, keyboard, read your files, execute code on your computer.
So it's much more powerful in terms of what it can actually do.
In terms of access, yes. If you want an AI that can literally operate your computer the way you would, opening applications, clicking buttons, editing files, OpenClaw does that. Computer doesn't because it runs in the cloud.
So why would anyone choose computer over OpenClaw?
Safety and manageability. OpenClaw running on your laptop has access to everything you have access to. Your email, your bank account, your company's internal systems. If it gets compromised or makes a mistake, the blast radius is huge.
Whereas computer is sandboxed.
Exactly. It only has access to what you explicitly connect. And because it's cloud-based, Perplexity can update it, patch vulnerabilities, and shut it down remotely if needed.
But that also means it's limited by whatever integrations Perplexity builds.
Yes, computer has integrations with 400+ apps, but if the tool you need isn't in that list, you're stuck. OpenClaw can use anything installed on your computer.
So the trade-off is power versus control.
Right, and Perplexity is betting enterprises will choose control. They're probably right for regulated industries. For personal use or startups, OpenClaw's flexibility might win.
Let's zoom out. Perplexity is making a big bet that the future is multi-model, not single-model. Are they right?
I think they are. Look at the data. Perplexity says more than half their enterprise users already switch between models within a single workday. That tells you no single model is optimal for everything.
But isn't that temporary? Won't models eventually get good enough at everything?
Maybe, but even if they do, there's an economic argument for multi-model. Different models have different costs. If you can route routine tasks to a cheap model and only use expensive frontier models when necessary, you save money.
So it's not just about capability, it's about efficiency.
Both. Perplexity showed usage data. Visual tasks go to Gemini Flash, coding to Claude Sonnet, medical research to GPT 5.1. That's specialization, but they also use modified open-source Chinese models for cheaper routine work.
Wait, they're using Chinese models?
They got dinged for that last year when they weren't transparent about it. Now they're open about it. The argument is, why pay OpenAI rates for a simple task when a cheaper model works just as well?
That makes sense for Perplexity, but does it make sense for users to care?
Users don't care which model is used. They care about outcomes. As long as the task gets done well and cheaply, the underlying model is implementation detail.
So Perplexity becomes the abstraction layer.
That's the play. They're betting that in the future, you won't say, I need GPT or I need Claude. You'll say, I need this task done, and Perplexity figures out which combination of models does it best.
Okay, so we've got AI that can work for weeks autonomously. What does that mean for people whose job is doing those tasks?
This is the uncomfortable conversation. If computer can do regulatory analysis, competitive research, content creation, and project coordination, what do junior and mid-level knowledge workers do?
What's your answer?
I think we're watching the same pattern we've talked about in previous episodes. First, AI makes people more productive. One person with computer can do the work of 5, but that means you need fewer people.
So 4 people lose their jobs.
Or never get hired in the first place. That's what worries me more. Entry-level roles that used to be training grounds, research assistant, junior analyst, associate consultant, those might just disappear.
Because computer can do them for $200 a month.
Right, and that's not $200 per person. That's $200 for unlimited tasks, subject to credit limits. From a business perspective, the math is brutal.
What jobs are most exposed?
Anything that's primarily information work with clear deliverables, market research, competitive analysis, content creation, data analysis, project coordination. If the output is a document, a presentation, a report, or a website, computer probably can do it.
What's protected?
Things that require real human judgment, relationships, and accountability. You still need someone to set strategy, build trust with clients, make high-stakes decisions, but the pyramid gets flatter.
Fewer junior people supporting each senior person.
Exactly. You might have one partner with computer doing the work of what used to be a partner plus 3 associates.
So where does this technology go from here? What are you watching for?
First, reliability at scale. Can computer actually handle month-long projects? We don't know yet. If it can, that's transformative. If it can't, it's just a fancy automation tool.
What else?
Enterprise adoption. Will regulated industries actually use this, or will compliance concerns keep them on traditional software? That determines whether this is a niche product or becomes infrastructure.
What would make you confident it's going to be big?
If one of the Mag 7 announces they're building on Perplexity's platform, that would be the signal that this architecture, multi-model orchestration, is the winning approach.
What's Perplexity's competition?
OpenAI is working on agents, Anthropic has Claude Code, Google has Gemini agents, Microsoft has Copilot Studio. Everyone's building some version of this.
So Perplexity isn't alone.
Not at all. This is a race, but Perplexity has a head start on the orchestration piece. They've been model agnostic from the beginning. Everyone else is trying to push their own model.
Does that give Perplexity a real advantage, or is it temporary?
I think it's real. Being model agnostic means they're not fighting the economics of model providers. They're a platform that sits on top. That could be very valuable.
What's the biggest risk to that thesis?
Model providers cutting them off. If OpenAI or Anthropic decides they don't want Perplexity routing to their models, Perplexity's whole strategy falls apart.
Is that likely?
Srinivas says he got congratulations from Anthropic and Google after the launch. So right now, the model makers are happy. But if Perplexity gets too big or too threatening, that could change.
Classic platform risk.
Classic platform risk. But for now, everyone's benefiting. Model makers get usage, Perplexity gets flexibility, users get the best tool for each job.
Sarah, this has been really helpful. And honestly, it's making me rethink what AI agent even means.
Yeah, we're past chatbots. This is something different.
For everyone listening, Perplexity Computer is available now if you're a Max subscriber, $200 a month. It's expensive, but if you're doing complex knowledge work that currently takes days or weeks, it might be worth testing. The broader story here is that AI is moving from tools to systems. Not ask a question, get an answer, but describe an outcome, get the finished thing. And that shift is happening faster than most people realize. If you want to stay ahead of these developments, subscribe to theadai. We cover the stories that are reshaping how work actually gets done. Share this episode with someone who's trying to figure out whether AI agents are real or just hype, because as of this week, they're real. Sarah, thanks for walking through this.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
I'm Alex, this is The Read AI, and we'll catch you on the next one.